All right, man, peace. So NBA legend Charles Barkley recently made the news with his declaration in the aftermath of LeBron James signing with the LA Lakers that he believes, when he was asked a question in regards to the Eastern Conference, that the Boston Celtics are going to dominate the Eastern Conference over the next 10 years. Of course, that's hyperbole because no teams are great for 10 years anymore. And to be quite frank with you, if we really want to go there, the only two teams that were great for a 10-year period were the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics of the 60s. That's about it. And in this era of free agency, if you're able to get a great 5-year run, you should be very thankful. The Golden State Warriors are that rare team that's able to catch lightning in a bottle and have components that fit together perfectly, players that are very unselfish, so they may be able to extend that past that 5-year mark, maybe out to 8 years or so. But just in regards to the Boston Celtics, I think that the personalities on their team are not going to mesh quite as well because Kyrie Irving is a very, very independent thinker, and he's always going to do whatever he wants. He's extremely whimsical. So it would not surprise me if he leaves their team after this season. But of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, guys. With LeBron no longer in the Eastern Conference, want to switch gears here. Charles Barkley making this prediction on NBA TV. Sir Charles?
The Boston Celtics are the team to beat in the Eastern Conference for the next 10 years. They think about it. They took them to 7 games without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. So the Cavs were done anyway if LeBron stayed there. But it's all about the Boston Celtics now.
I don't think that they're going to be able to keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum together over the next 10 years.
Stephen A. talking the East a little here. Do you agree with Barkley? It's all about the C's?
Of course not, because he said 10 years. That's why I disagree with.
I agree with you, sir. I think that at best, if they're able to re-sign Kyrie Irving, say after this season, to a very large 4-year deal or 5-year deal, that will most likely be the extent to which they'll be able to dominate the Eastern Conference. And I put dominate in quotes because I'm still not quite sure how good Philadelphia can be. They need some shooting. But the Boston Celtics seem to have everything except for a dominant force on the interior. But we'll find out over the course of this oncoming season. I like Al Horford as a third option, really as a third option offensively. But on this Boston Celtics team, he may be the 5th or 6th option once Kyrie and Gordon Hayward come back.
Now, had he said 2 or 3 years, I would side with him. But in today's NBA economy and the way things are flowing, there's no way in hell that you're going to look at the Celtics and talking about they're going to be the team to beat in the next 10 years. The Golden State Warriors ain't going to be the team to beat over the next 10 years.
I agree with that. But the overall outlook for the Golden State Warriors is based in winning right now. All their players are in their extremely late 20s or 30 years old. The Boston Celtics have a couple of players who are not even 22 years old yet. I don't believe that Jaylen Brown is 22 years old yet, and I know for a fact Jason Tatum is going to turn 20. So I think that may have been what he was looking at, but as you're saying so well, Stephen A. Smith, in this climate within the NBA with all this money to be had, especially when you show that you're a superstar after about 4 years, I don't think that they're going to be able to keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum together. And I'm pretty sure that Kyrie Irving is not going to be on that franchise after 5 years. He may not even be on the franchise after next season.
Maybe over the next 3 to 4, but it ain't going to be over the next 10. There's always somebody on the come up. The Golden State Warriors have been to 3 NBA Finals, 3 consecutive NBA Finals. And what happened? It took them 7 games to take out Houston. Okay, and it also was helped by an injury to CP3, at least half the populace would argue.
Well, actually, it was helped by an injury to Andre Iguodala. Because had it not been for that injury, they would have defeated the Rockets in 5 games.
So in the NBA, there's too much talent, and there's too many people that want to go after the big fish on the block in order to sit up there and say 10 years. Come on now. I'm not going to go that far. That's definitely Charles Barkley engaging in hyperbole and committing blasphemy, I might add, against the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, where he started for in the early part of his career. Because I got news for you. If Philadelphia can get their hands on one other bona fide player, they can give Boston a run for its money. Boston is the team to beat in the East right now.
Well, here's my issue with that, Stephen A. Smith. What bona fide player are they going to be able to acquire that's going to boost them up to the level of the Boston Celtics? Because as you've already stated so well, Boston was able to defeat them in 5 games. It wasn't even a 7-game series. Boston beat them in 5 games without their 2 best players. So I think that people are thinking that maybe Philadelphia can pull off a Kawhi Leonard trade. But as we've already seen, the San Antonio Spurs are not going to give up Kawhi for anything less than the other team's best prospects as well as draft picks. And when we look at the Philadelphia 76ers, this is why I stated that there was no doubt in my mind that Brian Colangelo was trying to create the dynamics to substantiate possibly trading Joel Embiid for Kawhi Leonard. When you see how he and his quote-unquote wife were blasting Joel Embiid in their tweets. That's why I say that, and I said this many videos ago, if the Philadelphia 76ers were truly serious about acquiring Kawhi Leonard, they were going to have to be willing to give up one of their 2 future superstars, either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. Once those tweets were revealed, that confirmed to me that Joel Embiid was the player that they were thinking about getting rid of. And they could have sold the deal to San Antonio by telling them that he could be their Tim Duncan for the next 10 seasons.
Make no mistake about it. How long are they going to keep Kyrie? How long are they going to keep all the requisite parts that they have? They've got decisions coming up about Jaylen Brown, about Kyrie Irving, about Al Horford.
About Marcus Smart as well, Stephen A. Smith. Marcus Smart is a restricted free agent, and from all popular reports, he is rather salty with the Boston Celtics because he feels as if they should have called him. They should have kept him in the loop in regards to communication. He's a little sensitive because that's the team who drafted him, and they're pretty much dangling him out there as all these NBA teams are doing with their restricted free agents. The Rockets are doing the same thing with Clint Capella because they're showing them that, look, in the financial landscape right now, you're pretty much stuck on your current team until you're unrestricted. So get over it. If you think that we're going to kiss your ass or make you feel better about yourself, we're not going to do that. Just have your ass in training camp by August or whenever training camp starts for the NBA.
Etc. So keep your eyes on all of those things. The next 10 years is a bit of hyperbole. But for the next 2 or 3, I can live with that.
I don't think it is hyperbolic, Stephen A. I think when Charles Barkley says the next 10 years, I hope that doesn't mean they're going to win the Eastern Conference title every year for the next 10 years. But the idea that they will be the team...
Yo, Kyrie's burst is off the charts. His change of pace and his hezzy, when he decides that he wants to burst, and then the fact that he could finish with either hand off either foot, makes him pretty unstoppable when he goes to the basket.
Team to beat in the East for the next decade, that sounds about right to me, and I will tell you why. Like, let's say over the next 10 years, you know, there'll be a couple of back-to-backs. Maybe they'll miss a year in terms of getting out of the East. They'll lose it in a great Eastern Conference Finals, then they'll win another one. Let's say out of the next 10 years, if someone were to tell me 5-6 times they're going to get to the finals, I believe that, and I'll tell you why. Number one, you have to ask yourself, who's the GM? I'm going to tell you it's the best in the game, Danny Ainge. Then you have to ask yourself, who's the coach? If Brad Stevens not the best coach in basketball, he's second to Popovich, and he's a baby.
Well, I think that he's the best right now. I believe that Brad Stevens has a greater understanding on how to deal with the modern NBA player. Popovich is a great coach once he's able to thoroughly immerse whatever draft pick they're bringing onto the Spurs or free agent they're bringing onto the team, once he's able to fully immerse them into the quote-unquote Spurs culture and bring that person properly under mind control. If he cannot get you under proper mind control, he has to get rid of you, i.e. Steven Jackson, i.e. Kawhi Leonard.
He's so young. He's a guy who could be around for at least 10 years. So you got the GM and you got the coach. And when you talk about long-term horizons, you know, that's what you're really looking at. Now you have to ask yourself,
That's a good point, Max Kellerman. I have to give you credit for that.
Is there a franchise caliber offensive player with upside who you can build around on that team who's very young? Jason Tatum. Yes, he is that guy.
It's going to be very interesting to see how good he can become. Because right now, his half-court offensive game, especially for a first-year player, is pretty stellar.
You can build a successful offense in the NBA, meaning conference finals caliber team at least, around an ascending Jason Tatum, I believe. Not to mention Jaylen Brown's still a puppy, as you would say, Stephen A. And it's not like Danny Ainge is just going to lose guys for nothing. Kyrie Irving, as Al Horford ages, he has shown the ability to flip aging players into things of value, draft picks, players, etc. So, 10 years, the Boston Celtics, I mean, Philly ain't going to get in there and do some business Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are, as you would say, special. But Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens, Jason Tatum, the Boston market, which is a large market, also trading on one of the greatest histories in sports, the Boston Celtics. Celtics will be a problem over the next decade. A problem.
Well, there's certainly going to be a problem next season. That's what we know for a fact. I mean, barring injury, barring serious or catastrophic injury to one of their major players, they're going to be a serious problem next season. And that's pretty much what I'm going to go off of. Once again, in this current NBA landscape, you never know how things are going to change from year to year. But you bring up a great point, Max Kellerman. When you have a Danny Ainge as your GM and you have a Brad Stevens as your coach, it's expected that once you create that winning culture within your franchise, which they're in the process of doing, that they should be competitive over the next 10 years as long as they keep those two guys with them. If they're able to re-sign Kyrie to a 5-year deal after this season, I would certainly put them as major contenders to win the championship over the next 5 years after this season. But we're going to find out.
They could be a problem for Golden State in these finals. Look out for Boston.
But the Sixers are going to be a problem too. Go ahead, Stephen.
I'm not quite sure about that, Molly Karam. I'm really not. I need to see how much Ben Simmons' game has grown from last season to this season, because his weaknesses were exposed, and that's another thing that a great coach can and will do. They're going to expose the weaknesses of an opposing team. Joel Embiid is going to have to mature mentally. He's very, very immature. And that's going to come back to haunt them big time in crucial moments in the playoffs for years to come if he does not find a way to try to separate his ego from the goals of the team. And, of course, they also need more consistent mid-range and long-range shooting.
First of all, I don't want to take any credit away from Danny Ainge, but Brad.
And I'm also not quite sure how much I trust Brett Brown right now.
Brad Stevens being there certainly helps. I get where everybody's coming from with that, but your ability to recruit or lack thereof matters. Remember, Danny Ainge wasn't able to get much talent there until Doc Rivers got there, when he ultimately traded for KG, got Ray Allen, and joined them with Paul Pierce. Not to mention, key point that everybody needs to remember, when you talk about 10 years, back in the day that was plausible when folks had something to play for. When you won, you were celebrated and you benefited financially off of that. When you lost, it mattered. Now, even when you lose, it doesn't matter, because we got guys that never won championships get commercials and endorsements and building.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, let's be for real. We pretty much always had that. Even back in the 80s, players who did not win championships were seen in commercials. Bernard King and Isaiah Thomas and Mark Aguirre, they were in Converse commercials even before they were able to win championships. So let's not try to act like things are so much more different. It's more like the corporate world has merged with the professional sports world to a far greater degree post-Michael Jordan. So that's truly what it's about. If we want to concentrate on players or great athletes getting lauded for not winning, let's start with LeBron James, because he's 3-6 in the finals, and people are still trying to push and promote this fallacy that he's the greatest basketball player of all time.
Building portfolios beyond basketball all over the place. So who's going to have that intestinal fortitude to have a sustained level of excellence spanning a year? It's very, very few people that are built that way. I don't think it exists in the NBA circles outside of LeBron. And to be quite honest with you, that's my mentality, and that's the biggest reason I don't think anybody's got a chance of pulling it off for a decade.
It doesn't exist in the NBA outside of LeBron. It doesn't exist in the NBA starting with LeBron. Give me a break, bro.
I believe you. A decade's a bit of an exaggeration there, guys. I'm going to read you 2 quick news stories that just came in. I need real quick reaction from you so we can get to break. In other news in the Eastern Conference, according to sources, Denver has agreed to trade Wilson Chandler and a future second-round pick to the Philadelphia 76ers. In return, the Sixers will absorb the $12.8 million contract this season. Max, I'll start with you. How does this help the Sixers' chances of winning the East this season?
Pretty much what that acquisition should be telling Markelle Fultz is that we don't trust you. That's what that should be showing him. He's going to have to bring his A game into training camp, or he's going to be pushed farther down the bench. I don't care how many highlight videos he makes for the internet where he's going between his legs and having dunk contests. If he still has the same mental issues, the same yips with his jump shot, Wilson Chandler was brought in to be a surety for him.
Wilson's a good player, but it's also an expiring contract, Molly. So the Sixers retain flexibility going forward while slotting in a good player, a real NBA player, into the mix with Embiid and Simmons, a veteran and a guy who's had success in the league over years.
It's an upgrade simply because everybody that scores for the Philadelphia 76ers outside of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are incapable really of creating their own shots. They rely on Ben Simmons to feed them the basketball.
Plus, they needed a player to replace Ilyasova.
Wilson Chandler doesn't need that. He can create his own shot. It's good to have that guy with that size and that scoring ability added to this crop.
All right, just want to add this too, guys. According to sources, Tyreke Evans has agreed to a one-year, $12 million deal with the Pacers. Obviously, a nice boost to a team that finished 5th in the Eastern Conference last season.
That's a great boost for them because that will allow Oladipo to play off the ball more.
They were impressive. Unfortunately, we don't have time for you to react to that signing, fellas, but maybe a little bit later in the show. Still to come here.
But anyway, that's basically it on this video. We'll see where the Boston Celtics go from here. I think that the sky's the limit for them, especially next season. I would have given them probably a 40% chance to win the championship before the Warriors signed DeMarcus Cousins. Now I give them about a 25% chance, which is still the highest chance that I give anyone in the NBA outside of the Golden State Warriors. So peace.